Meet the new Ford Bronco, and before you get too excited, no, it is not coming to Australia. Well, at least not yet, and at least not in this guise. In this video, we'll explain why it's so difficult to get the Bronco into Australia, even though it has the same chassis as the Ford Ranger Ute, and which model we reckon Ford might choose if they get the car over the line. In the meantime, we will tell you what this one's like to drive and explain why it's just so hard to get this vehicle down under. Let's get started.
Meet the Ford Bronco, a new take on a classic name. Under the bonnet is the same turbocharged 2.3-litre four-cylinder petrol engine, also fitted to the EcoBoost Mustang and the Ford Focus ST hot hatch. This particular example is paired to a 7-speed manual transmission and four-wheel drive, though one of those ratios is a low-range gear for gnarly off-roading. A 10-speed automatic is optional. Also available in the US is a turbocharged 2.7-litre V6 petrol engine, while the flagship Raptor version of the Bronco comes with a twin-turbo 3-litre V6, the same fitted to the Ford Ranger Raptor Ute. However, the Ford Bronco Raptor costs more than $86,000 US. That's more than 131,000 Australian dollars. More about that in a moment. Meantime, what we have here is the Ford Bronco Heritage Edition, priced from about $47,000 to $47,500 in the US before on-road costs and optional features are added. That equates to about $72,000 to $72,500 in Australian currency, and that's before it has been built in right-hand drive. For now, the Ford Bronco is a US-only model, even though it shares its architecture with the Ford Ranger Ute, which was designed and engineered in Australia and is built in Thailand. A quick rundown on the Ford Bronco. It is effectively Ford's answer to the Jeep Wrangler, and that means some models have the roof come off. There are also soft top versions available and a scaled down on-road only version. The one we're talking about today is the Ford Ranger based Bronco with a heavy duty chassis, heavy duty four-wheel drive system, and as you can see on this one, massive dedicated off-road tyres, and that's a factory fit. Speaking of tyres, the wheels look steel, but they're actually a painted alloy. Clever touches inside the cabin, lots of grippy grab handles, a very hard-wearing industrial design. There's good seat fabrics. As with a lot of off-road vehicles, the power window switches are in the center console rather than the doors. And you might have noticed before, it has windowless door design. So that means when the window goes down, there's no frame around the top edge. The seating position is really comfortable, and a lot of the controls are very similar to the Ford Ranger, and that shouldn't be a surprise given the DNA of this vehicle. Although Ford Australia was crucial in the development of the Ford Bronco, working with their partners in the US, it is not coming to Australia, and the reason is really simple. Jeep only sells between 1,000 and 1,500 examples of the Wrangler in Australia each year. In the US, the Bronco is going to do 50 to 100,000 sales, give or take, depending on demand. At the moment, demand for Bronco in the US is off the charts. They don't need to spare 1,000 cars here or there for Australia for a year. The other issue is it costs just as much to engineer the car for right-hand drive as it does in left-hand drive, and you can do the maths. If they're doing 50,000 plus in left-hand drive, there's really no need for Ford, or it does make it hard for Ford to make the business case to do 1,000 in right-hand drive. But Ford Australia is not giving up yet, and part of the reason for that is they are hopeful that if the left-hand drive to right-hand drive conversion program with the Ford F-150 proves successful, then they may consider a limited run of cars like the Bronco. Now, of course, all the bits are there. A lot of the bits underneath the chassis here or underneath the body are from the Ford Ranger. So Ford have a pretty vast parts shelf to choose from to get the right-hand drive bits necessary to make a right-hand drive Bronco. But here's the catch. If they bring the Bronco from the US to Australia, convert it locally, that adds a good $20,000 to $30,000 in labour and parts and all the other extra engineering involved to the cost of the car. So all of a sudden, instead of a $60,000 or $70,000 Ford Bronco, which they probably sell a few of, you're straight away up to $100,000 plus. And all of a sudden, you've got to ask yourself, how many people are going to spend $100,000 plus on a Ford Bronco, no matter how good it is? It really If they were to bring one car in, I reckon it's going to be the Ford Bronco Raptor. That car would have to be priced north of $100,000, and maybe because it's such a niche model, there's nothing else like it in the market, there's nothing else like it really in the world, let alone Australia. That is our speculation. That is no confirmation from Ford. Ford have not even told us this on background. This is me rolling the dice and having a guess and thinking, what would I do if I was Ford Australia? I'm not going to sell very many of the regular Broncos at $70,000, $80,000, $100,000, but I might be able to sell a limited run of Ford Bronco Raptors. Maybe that makes the engineering case worthwhile. To stay up to date with all the Bronco developments and including the possibility of a right-hand drive version coming to Australia, be sure to check back in with Drive.com.au regularly to check out our news stories. In the meantime, we're going to take this for a drive. Let's check it out. Eagle-eyed viewers may have noticed that this is a manual rather than automatic, even though we're in the US. While manual transmission cars only account for about 5% of the take-up rate of new car sales in Australia, it's even lower in the US. It'd be less than 1%. So to have a manual Bronco is actually quite rare. This particular Bronco is powered by a 2.3 litre turbocharged 4-cylinder petrol engine paired to a, well, technically a 7-speed manual. There's 6 forward gears plus a crawl gear, so they're calling that 7-speed, and a heavy-duty all-wheel drive system. As you might expect with these big cushy tyres, the Ford Bronco is really cushioned over bumps. The steering is light and easy, the gear shift is light and easy, and while it might look tough and macho on the outside, this really is a snack to drive. It actually drives with the ease and simplicity of a small hatchback. And I don't know if you can hear the engine labouring just a little there. That's because I've grabbed fifth and I'm doing less than 60 kilometres an hour. So it's even able to cruise comfortably at low speed, even in a tall gear. So there's plenty of torque there. While a lot of people might turn their nose up at the prospect of a turbo 2.3 litre 4-cylinder petrol engine, it's worth noting this is the same engine as in the Ford Mustang EcoBoost edition. So it's really no slouch. That said, the engine could do with a little more urge. We've been driving this car on a road trip in America. It has struggled up some hills, although there have been 4 people and luggage on board. And we're only seeing an average of 17 miles per gallon. That's not super economical. That's partly to do with the extra weight of the vehicle and the drag caused by these heavy-duty tyres. Why do people buy cars like these? They probably tell themselves they're buying it to do an off-road adventure. The reality is they look cool, they're kind of practical, and there's not much else like it on the road. While the Ford Bronco isn't for me, I can see the appeal. The catch is, for Ford Australia, how many people would stump up $100,000 plus for a car like this? So why is it so hard to do a factory-built right-hand drive Ford Bronco? According to all the experts on social media, it's easy. All the parts fit, Ford's just got to send them to the right factory, and down it goes the production line, and out the other end, and into a showroom near you. Not quite so easy. Ford would need to invest millions in addition to what they've already spent on developing the left-hand drive Bronco, and then they've got to recoup those extra millions from customers in Australia. Option B, Ford Australia brings the Bronco in, converts it locally, and sells them that way. But there's still an investment in the millions, and they still need to recoup that cost. And when you punch those numbers into a calculator, it is well north of $100,000. Would you really pay more than 100 grand for a car like this? I'm sure some people would, but not in the numbers Ford needs. Meantime, if you've made it this far in the video, please hit like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any future updates. Now back to the road test. I can see the appeal. I love the design, it drives nicely, and by all reports, it's epic off-road. So to sum up, I really like the Bronco. The heart says yes, but the head says no. If we get any one of these at all, it's got to be the Bronco Raptor.